Okay, so now that we have been introduced to the slope-intercept formula, this y equals mx plus b up here, and I showed you this before in our previous video, but we're going to do one more example just to make sure you get it. We're going to, if we have a problem like this, like y equals 2x plus 1, what we're going to do is we're going to try to find out what the y is by plugging in different numbers to the x. So we're going to say, if you look at this table down here, when the x is a certain number, and we're just going to choose the numbers, then y is another number. So when x is, and what you usually do is you just start with a couple of numbers below the 0, so like -2, and we'll do this like 4 or 5 times, plug in 4 or 5 different numbers. So when x is -2, if you have 2x plus 1 equals y, and x is -2, then y is going to equal 2 times -2 plus 1. So a 2 times -2 is -4 plus 1. That makes y a -3. So we're going to put this up here. When 2 is the -2, then y is a -3. So let's try another number. Let's go up one number from -2, and let's pick the number -1. So when x is -1, what is y? So if y equals 2x plus 1, then when x is -1, y is going to equal 2 times -1 plus 1. And you always do the multiplication first, so 2 times -1 is -2 plus 1. So that makes y -1. So we're going to write that in our table. When x is a -1, y is a -1. Now let's do another one. So we went -2 and then we said -1, so let's go up one more, up to when x is 0, what is y? So that would mean that y equals 2 times 0 plus 1. Well, 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1, so that makes y a +1. So when x is 0, y is a +1. Now let's do another one, and this time let's choose +1 for x. So when x is +1, y equals 2 times 1 plus 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 makes y equal 3. So when x is 1, y equals 3. Now let's do one more, and let's make x 2 this time. So when x is 2, what is y? Well, y equals 2 times 2 plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 makes y equal 5. So when x is 2, y is equal to 5. And now we can make a graph. There's -2 and -3, -1 and -1, 0 and 1, 1 and 3, and 2 and 5. So that gives us a line that looks like this. And that's how we find out what our y is going to be. We just pick some numbers, and I suggest these numbers. We just pick some numbers and we plug them into the formula as x, and we just do the math and find out what the y is going to be. And so we end up getting these coordinates to plot on the graph and draw your line. Now, when we do something like that, when we do something like when x is blank, and you just fill in the numbers, you plug in the numbers, then y is blank, or what? Then y is something, and you choose numbers to plug in to the x to get the outcome, to get an answer of what y could be. What we call doing that is a function. And what it looks like is this. F of x equals mx plus b. Now this is just a fancy way of saying the same thing as what we were saying in our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. But this f of x, all this means is that you are automatically going to know to do this. It just means pick some numbers, you pick some numbers and plug them into x, make them x, and then figure out what the outcome is. So what we just did a minute ago was a function. What we did was f of x equals 2x plus 1. So what if you are taking the test and you see this on your test? Now you will know to automatically just think that this right here, this just means y, but we wrote it f of x, they wrote it f of x because they're telling you, you pick a couple of numbers to plug into the x in the formula and you solve for y. Now let's do one more. F of x, and that reads f of x is what I'm saying. That's how you read that out loud, f of x. F of x equals 3x plus 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little table. X values over here, y values over here. If x is negative 2, well, negative 2 times 3 is 6, plus 0 is negative 6. If x is negative 1, well, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, plus 0 is negative 3. If x is 0, then y is 0, because 3 times 0 is 0. If x is 1, then y is 3. And if x is 2, then y is 6. And we can plot that on the graph. So when x is negative 2, y is negative 6. When x is negative 1, y is negative 3. When x is 0, y is 0. And when x is 1, y is 3. And when x is 2, y is 6. And there's your line. So functions aren't so bad. They're just scary looking to begin with because it's unusual and it's new information. Maybe you haven't seen this in math before. But all f of x means is that you choose what the x values are going to be and you plug them into the formula and you find out what your y values are. So when x is a certain number, then y is going to be a certain other number.